Hey everyone, it's Liz Justice here with the Personal Development Network. I'm here to talk to you today about finding joy. In my opinion, there are 3 keys to finding joy. And the first one is don't complain. The second one is be grateful. And the third one is love everyone. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the first pillar that I talked about is don't complain. I think that the don't complain is kind of the basic boil down of don't be a victim, take ownership for your life. So if you find yourself complaining a lot, you'll see that you're putting yourself into a victim role. Anytime you're complaining, you're basically saying, there's not anything I can do about this, I just have to live with it. So, there's a difference between making an observation that, oh, it's raining outside today versus complaining, man, it's raining outside today and that stinks. And it's easy to tell whether it's a complaint or an observation by seeing, are you putting yourself in a victim role? Are you saying there's nothing I can do and life's just gonna suck because this is happening right now, as in it's raining outside today and that really sucks, so there's nothing I can get done? Or it's an observation, it's raining outside today, but there's still stuff I can do and I can make the best of the situation. Complaining is so easy to do because it takes all of the blame off of you. If you're complaining, then nobody can blame you for anything, which isn't the case, but that's what it feels like to us. But when you're constantly complaining, people know you're a complainer and you don't solve problems, and you're just a perpetual victim. Now, there are times when bad things happen to good people, and there are times that bad things happen to people who are ownership-minded, who take ownership and responsibility for their lives. But you can see the difference in the response to these situations. So, I mean, there are people who have been wrongly imprisoned and gone on to earn college degrees, whereas there are people who have been rightfully imprisoned but blame somebody else for the crime that they committed, or said, I was young and stupid and somebody else influenced me, instead of taking responsibility for that crime. And you can see how it affects them. Like you can't achieve joy if you don't take responsibility for yourself, because if you don't take responsibility for yourself, then you will see that joy just happens to people. That will be your outlook. Joy just happens to people. This person is just always lucky, and so that's why they are happy and fulfilled in their life. Whereas if you realize that you don't have to be a victim, you don't have to wallow in victimhood to get pity from other people, then you will say, joy doesn't just happen to people. I can be joyous and I can make that happen for myself. A lot of very successful people in this world have overcome just horrible upbringings and had to overcome a lot of tragedy. One example that comes to mind is Oprah Winfrey. She had a very rough childhood, was raised in poverty. She was molested several times. She had a baby when she was, I believe she became pregnant at 13, had a baby at 14 who died. I mean, as a mom, I can't imagine, how to move on from having a baby that died, but she was able to overcome the victim role and take ownership for her own life. And look she's the richest woman in the world. She's amazing, and she's a role model to millions of people. So she's just an amazing example of how important it is to not complain, don't be a victim, and take ownership for your life. Now, the reason why complaining, every complaint doesn't necessarily make you a victim, but if you are habitually complaining, you are a victim. Think about how often you complain about your boss, your job, your significant other, your kids, all of these things. And if you're perpetually complaining, you're training your brain to be in that victim role. So even if you're like, it's just venting, it's not venting. It's training your brain to focus on the negative and be negative. And I know from experience, if you start to focus on not complaining, you will be amazed by how much more positive you become. And basically, on the path to joy, removing the negative is the first step. So step one, start to track your complaints. You can write your complaints down, or you can just keep a tally. Now that's what I did, is I just kept a tally going. But make yourself accountable for this too. Share it with somebody you love in your life, or somebody that that you know will hold you accountable. Tell somebody, hey, I want to try this not complaining thing, and if you catch me complaining, let me know, and just mark it down on your board. And it can be tough to get out of the habit, because it is a habit. You're in the habit of being negative and looking at stuff to complain about. When I started tracking my complaints, I found myself having to re-look at situations. So, you know, I would go and start to have the words come out, oh my gosh, you know, my boss is such a jerk or whatever. And my thought immediately was, well, he's under a lot of pressure. And stopping to think and realize and have empathy for that other person, why they acted the way they did. And realizing it's not all about me, which is very important for people to realize, that everything isn't about you. So if you start to really focus on not complaining, you'll realize that a lot of the things that you're complaining about, you could have empathy for the other person. You can stop and think, there's a reason why they're doing that. And maybe it is because they're a jerk, but there's a really good chance that it's because they felt they needed to do that for whatever reason. So take yourself out of the victim role, stop complaining, track your complaints, notice how it makes you feel when you catch yourself complaining, or when you catch yourself starting to complain and you want to stop yourself from complaining. Think about, if this is about a person, think, if I had complained, I could have lost that human connection. You know, our human connection with that other person could have degraded a little bit, because I didn't take the time to think about what that other person is going through that caused them to do this. To me, tracking complaints and stopping complaining was very helpful for me finding my happiness and finding my joy, and definitely put me on the path for finding a fulfilling life. So hopefully it works for you too. Let me know in the comments if you try it out and how it makes you feel to stop complaining. And then look out for step 2 in the finding joy process, which is being grateful. And as always, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and like this if you think this is a good idea. All right, thanks everybody. See you next time.